And we are here today to talk about thrash metal. Actually, this re-edition of Tapping the Vein, which from '92. It's been a long journey since '92, and actually, you get into the band a year before, right?
Right.
Especially for this album. So, what are your memories of those times? What are your memories of going in and getting into Sodom?
I joined Sodom in November of 1991 while I was still in high school. I was 20 years old and in my final year of high school, and through a mutual friend, I met Chris Witchhunter, and it was crazy. You know, you're just imagine you're in school, you're the outcast in school with the long hair and the motorcycle jacket, and you don't give a shit about school. There you have no one to talk to. Nobody understands who you are, and the only thing you want is rock and roll. And all of a sudden, this opportunity arises, and it was a blessing from heaven or from hell. So these days, bands did not find or hire unknown musicians. Sodom was a very famous band already, and I was a nobody. I was neon green behind the ears. I had no experience whatsoever, but I had this energy and I had this power and this belief in myself that I could do it. So, Tom and Chris wanted to prove to the world, to the thrash metal world, that they are still the reigning kings of German thrash metal.
Right.
And I wanted to prove to everybody that I can be somebody. So it was a perfect combination. We had the same goal to put out the most intense Sodom record to date.
Cool. And I think well, for sure on those days the time between recording and releasing an album was pretty short. I think you started this in around May, and by September the album was out. And it's
Exactly.
unmatchable today because all the bands are doing this 4 year cycle, and they are like a year in the studio, and there is almost another year or 2 years after you release the album itself. So, do you think it's better now, or it was better before when you had bands releasing albums every year or every 2 years?
I don't know if it was better. It was certainly different, no internet, no social media whatsoever. So, therefore, no distractions. All you did was go to the rehearsal room and focus on the music. So, I joined end of November, beginning of December in 1991. So, we started writing songs maybe January, because before we got a new rehearsal room that we
Hmm.
had to renovate. That happened also. I have no idea how where we found the time to do all this, but I joined the band. We started writing new music. We renovated the new rehearsal space, and I had to practice the old songs for the live show. So we entered the studio in May. That means we wrote the album in January, February, March, April, 4 months tops, including practicing a new material.
Right.
It's, as you said, unimaginable today. And this is what bands did every year. Bands usually put out an album every year. Then we went on tour for a month. The festival landscape did not exist. So 1 month of touring Europe, 2 weeks in Japan in December. That's it. Back to the rehearsal room, write new music, another cycle. Um, I think it it helped the music because the only thing you thought about was music. We were musicians. We were not part-time content creators. We
Mhm.
were not part-time social media experts. We did not, and we had a team for everything. These days, usually bands are some of the bands are managing themselves. They are,
Mhm.
everything goes over the artist's desk, so to speak. Back then, there was a label. We had a management company. We had a booking company. We had a publishing company, and they were all connected somehow. But we were out of the loop, so to speak, because we were stuck in the rehearsal room coming up with music. Because back then you went on tour to promote the album, and
Right.
now it's the other way around. Bands are constantly on the road, and festival season after festival season, and in between, you put out a new record, a new album, kind of as a marketing tool to keep the band on the road. So, and back then, people thought, oh, maybe I skipped Sodom live this year. I got the album. Maybe I skipped the show this year. They're coming back next year, you know.
Hmm.
But these days, the concert situation is where everything happens. And an album, be it vinyl or on CD, it's a merchandise item.
Yeah.
You know, you need it to have a reason to promote the concerts. And people are listening to the music on Spotify or Apple Music, and they buy the vinyl to present it on the shelf. It's a very, very different landscape. Do I miss the old days? Not really. Not really. Everything, what would it matter? It is what it is. What I really, really like these days, and what I sometimes hate, is that you have direct contact to the fans. I love it when the fans are nice,
Yeah.
you know, but usually the fans that are the loudest on social media are usually the complainers, the haters. So the thing that I actually like, talking to fans, being in contact with the fans, can be a pain in the ass because as in everybody's life, the assholes are always the loudest.
Yeah. It always happens if you are a public figure, like if you're in a band and you are exposed to that for sure. Right. So going back to 92, when it was released, maybe not, but some years after, people were saying, okay, Tapping the Vein is one of the probably the heaviest sounding album from Sodom. It almost sounds like death metal, some fans were saying back then. Do you think so as well? And do you think your input has something to do with it?
Um, we've heard these death metal references quite a lot, but we have no idea where it came from. You know, excuse me. Tom was not listening to death metal. He was listening to Motorhead, Venom, Tank, the old stuff.
Yeah.
Chris was listening to Iron Maiden, Halloween, Bryan Adams, and I was listening to Skid Row, Ugly Kid Joe, Faith No More. That was the stuff that really uh, caught me, that really crashed my life back then. Of course, I listened to the old stuff as well, old school thrash metal, Hallows Eve, Nasty Savage, Agent Steel, hardcore stuff like DRI. That's where I'm coming from. Um, I've always been a huge Anthrax fan, so none of us listened to death metal. We knew that this scene was coming up and was existing, but the only death metal album I've ever listened to, or that I really, really love, is the first Death album, Scream Bloody Gore.
Right.
So maybe maybe it's because some songs have Tom's voice being really low, where he's going to low register. So maybe that's where the death metal references are coming from. Plus, the album is in most parts really, really fast. But death metal, the guitars in death metal, the guitars are tuned very low,
Hmm.
in the bass, and tapping the vein is in standard tuning. It's I don't know where it's coming from. Maybe it's tapping the vein. It has a certain darkness. It has a certain dark atmosphere to itself.
Right.
With the low voice and the speed of the songs, maybe that's where it's coming from. But it was in no way intended because we had no idea what to make of death metal. We didn't care.
Right. And you mentioned Chris before. It was the last album with Chris on there, right? Some people say that this is their favorite lineup. So, will you say, do you see like this lineup here in Tapping the Vein in 92 or early 90s as the most iconic lineup for Sodom? Or do you have another favorite?
What can I say? I mean, my favorite Sodom lineup has to be with me. But everybody has its favorites. I'm a huge Kiss fan. So as much as I love the non-makeup years with Eric Singer and Bruce Kulick, my favorite Kiss lineup will always be Gene, Paul, Peter, and Ace.
Yeah,
So I know there are Sodom fans, first generation Sodom fans, who will forever love Angel Ripper, Witch Hunter, Blackfire. Then there is the next generation of Sodom fans who maybe were 14, 15, 16, 17 when I was in the band. So maybe their first introduction to Sodom or extreme metal for that matter was Tapping the Vein. So it always depends when stuff hits you in life. I'm a huge, huge Ramones fan. But my favorite lineup is not the original lineup. My favorite lineup of the Ramones is with Marky, and he was
right.
the second drummer, right?
Yeah.
So because he was in Rock and Roll High School in the movie, so that's when I first saw the Ramones. And when you get introduced first to something, maybe that has a certain place in your heart. So it's not for me to say. If somebody says the Angel Ripper, Witch Hunter, Andy Brings lineup is his favorite, thank you very much. I love it. I know for sure that this album and this lineup finds a lot of love out there from fans, and that gives I it's very touching, especially after all these years. And but I think every era of Sodom has its value, has its um, how do you say it? Has its right has its right to exist and has to be praised in a certain way because everything kept the band going. It's the Sodom ship is still sailing through all the rough seas of the years. It's in its fifth decade now, and I'm proud to have been obviously an important part of it. So, muchas gracias.
Great. Another thing that also changed since 92 is touring. Touring has changed a lot. As you say, you tour less now that you were touring before in the 90s. But also, before in the early 90s, maybe you have like three or four festivals, and they were very thematic. They are only playing thrash metal bands or only metal
Right.
bands. Nowadays, you can, I don't know, see a metal band playing with next to indie rock bands or punk bands or any other styles of bands, and you have these huge festivals where anyone can play. So Do you think we have evolved in that sense in a good way, or do you think that it's better like to have all metal bands in a festival, or
I think
even in tours? In tours, you can find a four bands package, and each band has a different style.
I think that's great. I don't understand the appeal of having 8 black metal bands on one bill, but I'm not the biggest black metal fan, but I would think that after the fifth black metal band in a row, you feel like you're being on a construction area where it's just, you know, you go crazy after 4 hours or so. I think the variety is great. And on the festivals these days, as you said, you can have Creator, then you've got maybe, I don't know, Skid Row, then you've got The Warning from Mexico, then you've
Mhm.
got maybe Volbeat as the headliner, and then there is maybe Doro or Alice Cooper and Anthrax in between. It's and on another stage, maybe Immortal. I think that's great. And these days, um, there's so much music out there, and you have it all right here, right, right. You have the whole music
You can
that's ever been.
possibly hear, yeah.
Yes, it's right here, and everybody's doing is making playlists. I have playlists where I don't know. You have Bohemian Rhapsody, and then it's Angel of Death, and then and then it's Madhouse, and then it's I don't know, like a Virgin from Madonna, and then it's a Lady Gaga song, and then it's back to The Trooper. I think it's all a big music party. Would I love to I saw Lady Gaga in concert once, and the supporting back her special guests were The Darkness,
Hmm.
with I Believe in a Thing Called Love,
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
band.
The English band, yeah.
English band, exactly. So I loved it. Most of the Lady Gaga fans had no idea what was happening. So but I think but I think it's great. Maybe it has to have a certain rock theme,
Right,
So,
right.
but within the rock and roll landscape, rock metal, I think everything is possible now. Back then, 40 years ago, to have Slayer and Motley Crue on the same bill, impossible. I would have loved it because I loved both bands equally, but in general, impossible.
So going back to Tapping the Vein, I think you are in charge of the remix of this re-release, right?
So
What was the hardest of the whole process of remixing the album?
the whole um, the hardest in the whole process of releasing it was getting the business side in order. The creative work was fun. I love doing stuff like this. This is part of what I do. I'm a producer as much as I'm a musician. So once I had all the individual tracks and had the project in front of me, it was excuse me, it took me a few weeks to really dive into this, to actually get a grasp of what we actually did. I had to put aside that it was me playing the guitar because I had to get a bird's eye view on the whole project. You
Hmm.
know, what it is that I'm hearing, what's really important. Although I'm the guitarist, that doesn't make my guitar playing necessarily the most important thing in the song.
Yeah.
You know, the song is king. And I wanted to show and bring out what we were really about. I didn't want to make the album better with my remix. I wanted it to be even more reduced. in a way. I wanted it to be like if you open the door to a really, really great rehearsal space, and all of a sudden you're standing right in front or in the middle of the band.
Hmm.
What did it actually sound like? Because I remember what we sounded like, It was, Chris's drums were all over the place because he was a very loud drummer. And I wanted really to showcase Chris Witchenter's playing. And I wanted my guitar to be dominant in the room. And I wanted, with the ambience.
Hmm.
And I wanted Tom's voice to be here, that you really, especially if you listen to it on the headphones, that you get the feeling that Tom is really right here in front of your face, that he's spitting you in the face while he's singing. This is the effect
Yeah.
that I wanted to get, and that when my guitar solo comes in, that it really crushes your teeth, that it really everything. I wanted the band to explode in your face, so to speak. Somebody said, who has already heard it, that it sounds like a live album without an audience.
Yeah.
And that's really great because I didn't want to modernize it. There are no samples on the snare. I didn't want to reamp the guitars. This is what actually happened. I killed all the reverb from the original album. I wanted it to be as as in your face as possible. So there were no real difficulties. It was just to get a vision of what I
Hmm.
wanted to do and then get everything in order according to that vision. Everything else was just getting it done. So the creative work on the re-release was really a lot of fun. The business side, not so much. It took us years to get it out. There were 2.5 years of silence with the label who bought the rights.
Hmm.
But in April this year, everything changed because after 2 years, 2.5 years of silence, I started to email everybody again. I stopped believing, to be honest, about last year or so. If you had asked me a year ago, I would have said it's never coming out. And I was convinced. But in January or so, I asked Tom, it's a shame. It's a shame. I would love to pick up communication again. And Tom said, okay, go. So in the name of in Tom's name and my name, I started to contact the label again, and I told them we want to put this out by the end of this year. It has to come out. Fans are angry
Yeah.
at the band, and it's not our fault. So long story short, by April, it went from Berlin to Los Angeles, back to London, and once London took charge, the London Bureau of BMG,
Hmm.
everything blossomed, everything happened. And as much as it was a real pain to get it to that point, as much fun as it is now. It's really a great collaboration with the album. I think the package is great. I can show you. It's this is the deluxe thing. It's really it's a great package. It has a book.
Yeah.
It has 3 vinyl records. It has 2 CDs,
Right.
and you can finally see the whole picture because the cover was always one big picture.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty good thing, and I'm very very happy and very proud. This is the first album that I've ever done.
Really cool, right? And it's great because a lot of new Sodom fans could finally get this on vinyl because
Yes.
old fans for sure have it, but you see some crazy stuff on the internet like people who has the first pressings of this album and they are maybe selling these first pressings for hundreds of euros, and not only with this album, with other Sodom albums. What is the crazy stuff you ever found about maybe Sodom merchandise or Sodom albums out there? And also, if you have any, I don't know, memorabilia or something that you keep very close to your heart.
I can show you some stuff. You know, this is the guitar I wrote and recorded Tapping the Vein on.
Right. Cool.
This is this is the one. This is the only guitar I owned. It's not very thrash metal, but it's the only guitar I owned. So this is my Tapping the Vein, my main guitar.
Right.
I have other stuff, this is one of the original autograph cards with Tom's Chris in my signature.
Cool.
I have, I have kept a lot of stuff. Just a second. I have boxes and boxes of stuff, but this is my original, my last Tapping the Vein album. So this is my original record. But actually it's not mine. It belonged to my father. So I
Right.
gave my father one, and it has when he came to the concert in '92, he put his backstage pass on the
Cool.
back of it. So this is my father's backstage pass from 1992, from the show in Düsseldorf, which is one of the concerts in the box
In that
set.
tour. Yeah.
I have all kinds of stuff. I have original photos. This is my original photo. That's the photo in the original booklet. I
Right.
have, since you asked, this is the shirt that I'm wearing on the Tapping the Vein cover.
Wow. You kept all these years.
Absolutely. And if you remember, um, 1 year later, there was a famous photo poster of us with me wearing the Spider-Man shirt.
Yeah. That's a
And
shirt. Wow.
that shirt, yeah, this is a shirt from Halloween Part 4. I made this myself in a copy shop. And you know, this is this is the shirt that I'm wearing right here.
Right.
So really kept everything. And but the prices for the original vinyl, like 500, 600, 700 euros. I've seen that, 700
Yeah.
euros. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy.
Blows your mind.
Yeah, it really blows your mind. And to be honest, I mean, if somebody is willing to pay for it, okay, that's the rules of the market, so to speak. It's I wouldn't pay this much money, but if it means so much to you, who am I to judge?
Yeah. Sure. For sure. Well, just to finish the interview, a lot of Sodom fans have their top three albums for Sodom, right? Always is Agent Orange, of course, Persecution Mania, on Tap in the Vein. It's always in
I
between
know,
the top three. Is that your
right?
top three too? Yeah, because
No,
because every musician when they release a new album, they say, "Oh, this is my best album so far," and But if
you
you have
know,
to choose your personal, not as a musician but as a fan
from Sodom,
from Sodom, yeah.
I don't know every Sodom record. I have never heard. I don't think I've ever heard Code Red or so. I wouldn't know. I don't remember that I've ever heard Code Red or M16. But my favorite album would be Tapping the Vein because it was my first.
Hmm.
And although I like the songs on Get What You Deserve even even a little more. But as it's with all first things in your life, they are always nearest and dearest to your heart. So my favorite Sodom album um, would be Tapping the Vein.
Yeah,
But Get What You Deserve is right there. Um, because it's so in your face. And I think Sodom has to be, when Sodom are their best, they are intense without any compromises. Um, and I think my era of the band was very intense.
Yeah, great. Well, Andy, thank you so much for your time for the interview.
Thank you very much.
Right?
Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Okay. And have a nice evening.
You too.
All
Hasta
right.
luego.